Good morning. Welcome to another One Mind meditation for this week. We don't have just one teacher leading us into our meditation sessions. We have a whole collection of beautiful teachers that help us step into every morning's meditation. For today, it's Lao Tzu and Eckhart Tolle working hand in hand to help us get to a level of understanding of, we could call this the observer. What might that mean to be the observer? Well, let's get into today's message. Good morning, Stefan. Good morning, Sanmari. Good morning, Grania. Hello. Wishing you an awesome Tuesday. Right, the first thought comes from Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu says, the key to growth is the introduction of a higher dimension of consciousness into our awareness. Linda, good morning. Danae, good morning. Happy Tuesday. So I'll read that one again. Let's try and get behind what Lao Tzu might mean. He says the key to growth is the introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. That sounds complicated. From exploring Lao Tzu's work, there is always more simplicity in his message than meets the eye. What could Lao Tzu possibly have meant by a higher dimension of consciousness? Is he asking us to ascend to higher dimensional states of being, and which dimension would be good enough? The 5th, the 6th, 16th? Good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Charlene. Good morning, Anne-Marie. It's awesome having you all here. So the answer to Lao Tzu's suggestion of a higher dimension of consciousness is really quite simple. And I'll demonstrate it. And in the email, when you get the email, you'll see it drawn out as well. I want you to have a look at this as you see it from your point of view. It is a rectangle from where you see it. It exists in 2 dimensions, and in this example, it represents me, my problems, or as Lao Tzu said, my level of awareness. If we turn it around, we get a perfect circle. And this circle as well exists in 2 dimensions. In this example, it represents someone else and his problems, or as Lao Tzu said in his quote, his level of awareness. How often do we get stuck in this 2-dimensional way of thinking? Me just seeing my own need for survival, and the same for the human I'm dealing with. Just seeing his own need for survival. I need to double down on my truth because I can clearly see that it's a rectangle that we're dealing with. And likewise, the human in front of me refusing to let go of his truth because his eyes clearly show him the circle that he is sure that we are dealing with. And often, even when we try and see things from each other's point of view, while we're stuck in this 2-dimensional level of thinking, the best we can come up with after trying to take each other's interests to heart is probably some kind of rounded rectangle. This might be a step in the right direction, but do we in fact have a clear picture of what it is that we're dealing with? It is only when we can literally see from a higher dimension that it becomes clear that what we're dealing with really is a cylinder. So a very simple way of looking at Lao Tzu's quote that says, what is needed for growth is the introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. How do we do this? How do we train our minds to be better at seeing from a higher dimension, a higher perspective? Are you able to look at your own thoughts? Are you able to watch yourself thinking with a curious interest in what your brain produces? This space of being the observer of your own thoughts is something that is expanded greatly by regular meditation to the point that it becomes the default way of viewing yourself and the world with the wisdom of the observer. Eckhart makes this wisdom very practical. He says, the moment you realize you are not present, well, in that moment you become present. Whenever you are able to observe your mind, then you are no longer trapped in it. Another factor has come in, something that is not of the mind, the witnessing presence. He says, don't judge or analyze what you observe. Watch the thought, feel the emotion, observe the reaction. Don't make a personal problem out of them. You will then feel something more powerful than any of those things that you observe. The still observing presence itself behind the content of your mind. The silent watcher. Last thought from Eckhart says, observe your thoughts. Don't believe them, but do watch them, look at them. When your own thoughts become an object of interest instead of something you feel wrapped up in or even drowning in, then more sides and angles become visible to you, literally seeing from a higher dimension of awareness. Our meditation today is called The Observer, and it gives us the opportunity to practice that, to practice taking a step back, seeing our thoughts without judgment, without criticism, but being very clear about what it is that we see. If you are ready, let's float away together. You can close your eyes, and we'll take the first few big breaths. Let's take a deep breath in and out. A deep breath in and out. A deep inhale and let it go. Deep breath in and out. One more big breath in and let it all flow away. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose gets drawn all the way deep down into your belly. And as you fill up your belly with air, also raise yourself up. As you breathe in, stretch out your spine, lift the top of your head toward the ceiling. And once you've reached your full height, let all of it go. As you exhale, soften. As you breathe out, soften your spine, slump down your shoulders, and drop your head. While you continue your full body breathing, rising with every inhale and falling with every exhale. I want you in your mind to toy with the idea of being the observer. For the moment, while you rise and fall with every breath, I want you to imagine you can step outside of yourself. And from a step or two away, observing you, sitting there, breathing. Take a moment to watch this human and his or her rise and falling breathing. There are many traditions of wisdom in the past that speak about this effect of being an observer, the observer effect, watching yourself. And in every of these old traditions, all of them, they always stress the importance of being able to observe without judging. Observe without criticizing. When you look at you sitting there and breathing, are you able to watch this human without judgment, without criticism? And here is the reason why that is so important. Naturally, if we take a look at ourselves, we might find things that we want to make improvements on. Ways in which we could possibly do things better. And in order to make really effective changes, we need to be able to look at everything, see all of it. And the truth is, when we have judgment about what we see, when we have criticism, when we look at ourselves, then a part of us is also trying to look away. While we judge ourselves and criticize ourselves, we really can't see all of ourselves. It is only once we can put the judgment and criticism down completely that we can take in all of this and then decide on how we might want to do things differently. We'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together, helping our bodies stretch and adjust and settle down into as much comfort as possible for the rest of our journey. Take a deep breath in. As you release, drop your head all the way forward and roll out your neck muscles, going forward and to the left, and also forward and to the right. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders forward in big, slow circles. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders backwards in big circles, nice and slow. Take a deep breath in. As you release, focus on your spine. See if you're able to tilt your head to the left while you tilt your hips to the right. curving your spine into an S from your head down to your tailbone. And then change sides. Can you tilt your head to the right and your hips to the left? One more big breath in. And as you release, you can stretch or move or adjust any part of your body that still needs a bit of help settling down. Having softened our bodies into a state of presence, or at least as much as we are able to do that. We can now turn our attention inwards and dive deep inside for the next part of our journey. If you don't have the time to sit for the whole meditation with us, then this is always a good place to stop. But if you are here for the whole journey, then with every next inhale, we'll hold our breath for a few short moments, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. Let's take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it a really long, really slow exhale. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel into your body. Feel how softness slips in and settles in every part of your body. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, follow the downwards flow through your body. Feel your shoulders slowly falling. Feel your body slowly softening. And feel how you are slowly slipping deeper into you. One more big breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself melting. Feel your whole body dissolving. Feel how you are slipping into a deeper level of surrender with every slow exhale. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose is an invitation. It invites you to turn inwards and follow this journey. As you breathe in, feel the air flow in through your nostrils. Feel the air touch the back of your throat. Stay with your breath as it flows in through your lungs. And as you fill up the balloon inside your belly, feel yourself slip all the way in. Hold your breath but hold it only for as long as it feels easy, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. With your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, we're staying with the theme of the observer. Can you take a look at this human sitting here, doing his best, doing her best? Take your next big breath. I want to ask you to bring to your mind a recent example. If it was in the last week, that would be great. If you don't find it in the last week, then search back a little further. An example where you were triggered by something or someone, and your reaction to being triggered was perhaps not completely helpful. In hindsight, when you look at your reaction in this example, you think, I could have done better. This might have been in reaction to a colleague, a family member, a friend, or to some other driver in traffic. With your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, search for a recent example, and if it's not recent, that's okay. Search as far back as you need to find an example of yourself being triggered and your reaction perhaps being unnecessary or unhelpful. Take your next big breath. I'm going to ask you to visualize that experience. Visualize you, see you back in that experience, or see that version of you. We are replaying it. In our morning meditations, I often ask you to visualize. And I want you to know, not two people ever visualize the same way. For some people, getting a clear image comes quite easily, and for others, just not. I promise you that there is no way to get it wrong. However it works for you is acceptable. But open yourself to seeing that part of you in that same scenario. And to help you visualize, see if you can perhaps remember the clothing you wore, and it's okay if you don't. But see you in that example with perhaps an overreaction. How clearly can you see you? Can you see the clothes you wore? Take your next big breath. Something led up to your trigger, to your being triggered, something the other person said or did. While the other person was speaking or acting, can you remember what your thoughts were? What were you busy thinking while you saw this other person acting or speaking? Remind yourself of the thoughts going through your mind just before you reacted. Take your next big breath. And then as you reacted, or perhaps overreacted, can you remind yourself of the words you said? How did you speak? How did those words come out of you? Take your next big breath. I want to remind you about judgment and criticism again. Are you able to look at that version of you in that example and see every bit of you without judging and criticizing? Because the judgment will cause you to not see everything. Can you put the judgment down completely? And when you look at you in that example, can you zoom into your face? And while you were acting, being triggered, reacting, while you were speaking, What was the expression on your face? What did you look like as you reacted? Take your next big breath. And then your body language. What did your body language look like in that moment? What were you doing with your hands, with your arms, as you reacted? Take your next big breath. Our meditation yesterday reminded us that there is a teacher in every moment. And if we look back at our reaction, it might be true that it's not the first time we reacted in that way. It tends to repeat itself. So we can use this example and make adjustments to it right now. And project that into the future and remind ourselves that next time it is possible to do it differently. So for a moment, be open to the idea that, and we know not in reality, but the idea that that exact same situation might play itself out again in future. If in future you were presented with the same opportunity, the same person saying or doing the same thing, but you have the opportunity to do it again, differently. If you saw the same person acting in the same way, speaking in the same way, what would you say to yourself while this is happening? What would you be saying to yourself before you react? Take a moment and speak to yourself. Take your next big breath. If the same situation were to repeat itself again, and you could catch yourself before you react and speak to yourself first, then what words would come out of your mouth as you react to the other person? How would you speak if you were able to do it again? Take your next big breath. If you were presented with the same opportunity again, as you react, respond actually, and as you speak, what would the expression on your face be? Take your next big breath. And if you were presented with the same opportunity, what would you want your body language to look like? What would your arms and your hands be doing? Take your next big breath. We'll take just one more big breath together to slip out of the breath holding space and into the next. Take a deep breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself slip all the way through. There is no more attention on your breathing. You can sit all the way back or even lie all the way back down and feel yourself just floating. I'll read to you again how Eckhart describes this observer space, being able to look at you. He says, the moment you realize that you are not present, well, in that moment you become present. Whenever you are able to observe your mind, then you are no longer trapped in it. Another factor has come in, something that is not of the mind. He calls it the witnessing presence. Eckhart says, don't judge or analyze what you observe. Watch the thought, feel the emotion, observe the reaction. Don't make it a personal problem. You will then feel something more powerful than any of those things that you observe. The still observing presence itself behind the content of your mind. The silent watcher. Observe your thoughts. Don't believe the thoughts. When your own thoughts become an object of interest instead of something you feel wrapped up in, then more sides and more angles become visible to you. You are literally seeing from a higher level of awareness. And that brings us to Lao Tzu's very simple thoughts. He says the key to growth is the introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. Can you step outside yourself and look at yourself? Can you step outside the situation and see the whole situation? caught up either in the rectangle or the circle, but get a good view of the whole cylinder. We have the last 5 breaths of gratitude to do together. With every exhale, I'll say my thank you, and I invite you to say yours. Let's take a deep breath in. Thank you for the opportunity to step outside of myself and see myself. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for really learning how to look at myself without judgment and criticism. That can take time, because it used to feel like if I don't judge what I see, I won't fix what I'm seeing. It used to feel like I need to criticize what I'm seeing in order to do better. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning that the only thing that judgment and criticism does is it prevents me from seeing everything, because a part of me is trying not to look. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for finding peace, I guess, and some kind of satisfaction in being able to see my own flaws clearly, yet no judgment, no criticism, but with an idea on how I'd like to do better. One more big breath in. Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you for being a part of our journey today. Hey, Prepare, good evening to you. Good to see you in the session. Shabs, good morning. Thanks for being around. Elmre, hello, good morning. Good to see you live with us. Thank you, Grania. Dominique, hello. I hope you were able to sit down with us for a little while. Thank you, Danae. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Sunmarie. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being a part of our journey. Lots of love to every one of you. Ciao, ciao.